Let me be honest with you from the start. You don't need more advice. You need to stop ignoring yourself. Because if you look at your life right now, especially when it comes to decisions, relationships, boundaries, that you're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you keep asking everyone else before you trust your own answer. You go to your friends, you go to your partner, you search online, you look for signs, validations, confirmation, anything that means you don't have to take full responsibility for your decisions. And I get why, because if someone else agrees with you, it feels safer. If someone else tells you what to do, it feels less risky. If it goes wrong, you're not the only one who chose it. But here's the truth you need to hear. Every time you outsource your decisions, you abandon yourself. And the more you do that, the less you trust your own voice. Not because it's wrong, but because you keep proving to yourself that it's not enough. And that's exactly what June is here to break. Because we're in Energy Body 6, the intuitive body. Part of you that already knows. Part of you that doesn't need permission. The part of you that doesn't need 5 opinions before it can move. And in a universal year 1, where everything is asking you to step into self-leadership, independence, and a new identity, you cannot build that version of yourself while constantly needing reassurance. It doesn't work. So if you've been sitting there thinking, I just need to think about it more, I just need to get another opinion, I just want to be sure. I'm going to say this with love. You're not looking for clarity. You're looking for permission. And the longer you keep doing that, the longer you stay exactly where you are. If you're new here, hi, I'm Cherry. I'm your spiritual life coach, numerologist, and energy alchemist. And on this channel, we don't just talk about healing. We call out the patterns that are keeping you stuck and actually change how you move in your life. So before we go any deeper, if you're ready to stop guessing yourself, trust your own voice, and start making decisions that actually move your life forward, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell and join this space, because this isn't just content. This is where you stop giving your power away and start taking it back. Now, let's get into it. This is the one where I stopped being gentle. Monday equaled awareness. Wednesday equaled understanding. Friday, today, is no more hiding. This is where I lovingly call you out and cut through the excuses. So let me be honest with you from the start. You don't need more advice. You need to stop ignoring yourself. Because if you look at your life right now, especially when it comes to decisions, relationships, boundaries, you're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you keep asking everyone else before you trust your own answer. You go to your friends, you go to your partner, you search online, you look for signs, validations, confirmation, anything that means you don't have to take full responsibility for your own decisions. And I get why. Because if someone else agrees with you, it feels safer. If someone else tells you what to do, it feels less risky. If it goes wrong, you're not the only one who chose it. But here's the truth you need to hear. Every time you outsource your decision, you abandon yourself. And the more you do that, the less you trust your own voice. Not because it's wrong, but because you keep proving to yourself that it's not enough. And this is exactly what June is here to break. Because we're in Energy Body 6, the intuitive body. Part of you that already knows. The part of you that doesn't need permission. The part of you that doesn't need 5 options before it can move. And in a universal year 1, where everything is asking you to step into self-leadership, independence, and a new identity, you cannot build that version of yourself while constantly needing reassurance. It doesn't work. So if you've been sitting there thinking, I just need to think about it more, I just need to get another opinion, I just want to be sure, I'm going to say this with love. You're not looking for clarity, you're looking for permission. And the longer you keep doing that, the longer you stay exactly where you are. If you're new here, hi, I'm Cherry. I'm your spiritual life coach, numerologist, and energy alchemist. And on this channel, we don't just talk about healing. We call out the patterns that are keeping you stuck and actually changing how you move in your life. So before we go any deeper, if you're ready to stop second guessing yourself, trust your own voice and start making decisions that actually move your life forward, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell and join this space, because this isn't just content. This is where you stop giving your power away and start taking it back. So now let's get into it. Now we hold the mirror up properly. So let's make this really real. Because outsourcing your truth sounds like a big concept, but it shows up in small, everyday behavior that you probably don't even question anymore. It looks like sending that message to a friend saying, what do you think I should do? Even though you already have a feeling about it. It looks like replaying a conversation in your head, then going to someone else to ask, do you think I handled that right? It looks like Googling your situation, watching video after video, looking for someone to tell you the answer you're hoping for. It looks like knowing you want to say no, but saying, let me think about it, just so you can buy time to check what everyone else thinks first. And here's the one people don't like admitting. It looks like ignoring your initial feeling until someone else confirms it for you. And then suddenly you trust it. Not because it changed, but because someone else said it too. And I want you to really sit with that, because that right there shows you the pattern. You don't trust yourself until someone else agrees with you. And if they don't, you question yourself. You override it. You soften it. You convince yourself you're overreacting. And this is how you slowly disconnect from your own truth. Not in one big moment, but in these small, repeated choices where you choose someone else's voice over your own. And the more you do that, the more you train yourself to believe, I don't know what I'm doing. I need help to decide. I can't trust my own judgment, even when that's actually not true. Because let's be honest, how many times have you asked for advice and deep down you already knew what you wanted to do? You just wanted someone to back you, to validate it, to make it feel safer. And there's nothing wrong with support, but there's a difference between support and dependence. Support is, I know what I want, I just want to share it. Dependence is, I don't trust myself. Tell me what to do. And most people are operating from the second one without realizing it. And this is exactly what keeps you stuck. Not lack of clarity, but lack of self-trust. And the more you rely on other people to guide your decisions, the further away you move from your own intuitive voice, which is the one thing that actually knows what's right for you, not them. So if you're seeing yourself in this, if you're realizing how often you look outside of yourself before making a decision, let's talk about why. Because this didn't just appear out of nowhere. This is conditioning. If you spent years being the person who keeps the peace, who avoids conflict, who makes sure everyone else is okay before you are, then of course you don't trust your own decisions straight away, because you were never taught to prioritize them. You were taught to consider everyone else first, to think about how your choices affected other people, to make decisions that doesn't upset anyone, to be agreeable, easy, accommodating. So instead of building self-trust, you built awareness of other people. You got really good at reading the room, at anticipating reactions, at adjusting yourself to fit. And while that might have kept things smooth on the surface, it came at a cost. You stopped checking in with yourself. Or when you did, you didn't act on it. Because acting on your truth can feel risky. It can mean disappointing some, being misunderstood, creating tension, being seen differently. And if your nervous system has learned that those things equal unsafe, then of course you're going to look for reassurance. Of course you're going to ask for permission. Of course you're going to hesitate, because outsourcing your decisions feels like protection. It spreads the responsibility. It reduces the risk. It gives you something to lean on. But here's the truth most people avoid. That protection is also what's keeping you stuck. Because every time you choose safety over truth, you reinforce the version of you who doesn't trust herself. The version who needs validation, waits for approval, avoids conflict. And this is where Energy Body 6 comes in again. Your intuition isn't blocked. It's just been overridden by your need to feel safe. And in a universal year one, where your entire life is asking you to step into self-leadership, this becomes the work. Not eliminating fear, not waiting until you feel complete, not waiting until you feel completely confident, but learning how to choose yourself even when it feels uncomfortable, because that's what breaks the pattern. Not more thinking, not more advice, but a decision. A moment where you go, I hear what everyone else is saying, but I'm choosing what feels right for me. And then you back it. That's the shift. From external validation to internal authority. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first, because you're doing something different. But that discomfort is the exact place your self-trust starts to build. So let's bring this back to where you are right now, because this isn't just a habit you can casually keep working on in the background. This is happening inside a universal year one, which means your life is literally asking you to step into a new version of yourself. New identity, new standards, new ways of making decisions. And here's the part that matters. You cannot build that version of yourself while still needing permission to be who you are. It doesn't work. You can't say you want to be more confident, more assertive, more aligned, while still checking with everyone else before you make a move, because those two identities don't match. One is self-led, the other is externally driven. And at some point, you have to choose which one you're going to be. Because right now, every time you go to someone else before trusting yourself, you reinforce the old identity. The one who doubts herself, waits for approval, avoids responsibility. And then you wonder why things don't change. It's not because you don't want it to. It's because your behavior is still aligned with who you used to be. And this is where year one gets real. Because this year doesn't respond to intention. It responds to decision, to action, to the way you actually show up in your life. So if you keep saying, I want something different, but your actions still look like asking for permission, avoiding discomfort, or waiting for certainty, you're going to stay in the same cycle. Not because you're doing anything wrong, because you're not doing anything differently. And I'm going to say this clearly because you really need to hear it. Your next level does not require more advice. It requires more self-trust. It requires you to make decisions without needing everyone else to agree. It requires you to stand in your choices, even when they're uncomfortable, because that's what self-leadership looks like. Not having all the answers, but trusting yourself enough to move anyway. So if you've been waiting for a moment where you suddenly feel ready, confident, or completely sure, this isn't that moment. This is the moment where you decide, I'm done waiting for permission, and you start acting like it. So let's talk about what actually changes when you stop outsourcing your truth. Because this isn't just about stopping a habit. This is about stepping into a completely different way of living. The first thing that shifts is clarity. Not because life suddenly becomes simple, but because you're no longer drowning your own voice out with everyone else's. You stop second guessing every decision. You stop going back and forth. You stop needing constant reassurance just to move forward. And instead, things start to feel cleaner, more direct. You might not have every step mapped out, but you know your next step, and that's enough. The second shift is speed. And this is something people don't talk about enough. When you trust yourself, you move fast. You don't sit in indecision for weeks. You don't overanalyze every possible outcome. You don't delay things that you already know need to happen. You decide. You act. You adjust if needed. And that's how momentum builds, because your life doesn't change from one perfect decision. It changes from consistent self-led movement. The third shift is self-respect. And this is big, because every time you listen to yourself and you follow through, you send a message to yourself. I've got me. I can trust myself. I don't need to look outside of me to know what's right. And that builds something deeper than confidence. It builds stability. You stop feeling like everything else is up in the air. You stop needing constant reassurance to feel okay. You start feeling grounded in your own decisions. And from that place, everything in your life starts to shift. Your boundaries get stronger. Your relationships change. The way people respond to you changes. Not because you forced anything, but because you're no longer showing up as someone who needs validation to exist. You're showing up as someone who chooses herself. And this is exactly what Energy Body 6 is here to activate. Not just intuition as a concept, but intuition as something you actually live by. And in a universal year one, this is the foundation of everything you're building. Because the version of you who trusts herself moves differently, chooses differently, lives differently. So this isn't just about stopping something. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need permission to be who she is. And once you step into that, there's no going back. So if you're ready to stop outsourcing your truth, this is where you start. Not perfectly, but intentionally. First thing is this: make one decision without asking anyone else. Just one. It doesn't have to be huge, but it needs to be real. Something where your instinct is to message someone, get their opinion, or check if it's all right. And instead, you pause. You check in with yourself and you choose, not outside input, because this is how you start rebuilding trust, not by thinking about it, but by proving to yourself that you can make a decision and be okay. The second thing is catch the moment you go to outsource and interrupt it, because this is a pattern. And patterns run automatically unless you become aware of. So the next time you reach for your phone to ask someone, pause and ask yourself, do I actually need this, or am I avoiding trusting myself? And be honest, because most of the time you already know the answer. You're just trying to make it feel safer. But safety isn't the goal anymore. Alignment is. The third thing is back your decision, even when it feels uncomfortable, because this is where most people slip. They make a decision, and then immediately start questioning it, looking for reassurance, checking if they did the right thing, second guessing themselves. And that takes you straight back into the old pattern. So once you choose, stay with it. Let it be enough. Let it feel uncomfortable without trying to fix it, because that discomfort isn't a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're doing something different. And different is exactly what creates change. And the final piece, and this is the one that changes everything, is stop explaining yourself so much. You don't need to justify every decision. You don't need to over-explain your boundaries. You don't need to make it makes sense for anyone else, because the more you explain, the more you're subtly asking, is this okay? And we're not doing that anymore. You get to decide what's right for you. And let that be enough. This is how you start reclaiming your power. Not in one big moment, but in these small, consistent choices where you choose yourself instead of outsourcing your truth. And the more you do that, the stronger your self-trust becomes, the clearer your intuition gets, and the less you feel the need to look outside of yourself to know what to do. That's the shift. From needing permission to being the one who decides. So let's be honest for a second. At this point, you don't need more advice. You don't need another opinion. And you definitely don't need to keep telling yourself you're just not sure yet, because you are sure. You felt it. You've known it. You've just been overriding it. And now that you can see that, you don't really get to go back to pretending you don't know. So the question isn't, do I understand this? It's, am I going to keep abandoning myself, or am I going to start backing who I am? Because that's the line. Not some big dramatic moment in the future, but the next decision you make, the next time you feel that instinct, the next time you want to ask someone else, the next time you start second guessing yourself. That's where this work actually happens. You either follow the pattern or you break it. And I'm not going to tell you it's going to feel comfortable straight away. It won't, because you're stepping out of something familiar. But familiar isn't what you want anymore. You want alignment. You want self-trust. You want to feel solid in your own decisions instead of constantly questioning yourself. And that only comes from one thing: choosing yourself consistently. So if this landed for you, if you're seeing where you've been giving your power away, overthinking or relying on everyone else to tell you what to do, don't just leave it here, because awareness without action is exactly why nothing changes. So first, make sure you hit subscribe and tap the notification bell, because this whole series is designed to rebuild your self-trust step by step. And if you actually follow it, your life will start to shift in ways you didn't expect. And second, if you're ready to take this deeper, I've got something for you. You can grab my free boundary bootcamp in the description box below. It's going to help you stop people pleasing, set real boundaries, and actually follow through on what you know is right for you. And if you're done sitting in indecision, if you're tired of knowing what to do but not doing it, then book a strategy session with me. It's 30 minutes. This is where we take everything you've just learned, you've just realized, the patterns, the hesitation, the self-doubt, and we break it properly. So you stop outsourcing your truth and start living in alignment with it. No more waiting, no more second guessing, just clarity, self-trust, and decisions that actually move your life forward. So on that note, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.